Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode. My name is Dave Mill. Welcome back to another episode of the OPA to OPM podcast with my host, Alex and Kel. What's going on, you guys?
What's up, family?
What's going on? Another great one in the books about to happen.
Exactly.
You dig?
And today we have a very good special guest, our guy, Mr. Randall. How you pronounce your last name?
Monfiston. I'm going to say it for you.
Monfiston?
Yeah, so I got a Haitian background. I'm just going to go right into it, not to cut you off. So, Randall Monfiston, if you want to say it in a proper ethnic way for Creole, is Monfiston. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, add some finesse to that.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to make sure y'all know it's a special guest. Don't put me in a regular category. A special guest. It's
I love
special.
Okay.
Oh, we starting out right.
Special guest. Hey, for all our previous guests, step your game up.
Let's go.
All right. So, Mr. Monfiston,
Yeah.
introduce yourself. Like, where you from, and what do you do?
So I'm originally from New Jersey, Asbury Park, New Jersey, by way of Brooklyn, New York. Come on, BK, stand up.
Okay.
So right now I'm a financial consultant for the government, and then as well as I do real estate investing on the side.
Okay. How long have you been a financial consultant?
For the past since May of 22. So I was prior Navy, which kind of brought me here to the DC
dope.
area.
Thank you for your service.
Appreciate your support, man. Yeah.
That's dope. You Les, very simple.
Yeah. When we first met, that just like it clicked from there. He was saying that he was prior Navy too.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's dope. All right, so what attracted you to like real estate, and exactly what area do you invest in, and what exactly do you invest in?
Got you. So for the first part of the question about what got me into it, it's funny when you think about your as your adult, you reflect on your childhood, and I feel like a lot of times, and not a lot, oftentimes, who you are as a man or a woman is a reflection of how you were as a child, right? And I seen my parents; they did small renovations here and there to their homes, whether it's apartment that they were renting to apartment that they owned, like a condo. So I think that kind of was a seed in my mind that I want to do this. So in my early 20s, I had the interest, but I didn't pull the trigger. You know what I mean? All the different fears of like taking on this big responsibility to invest in real estate. So we fast forward mid 30s, 34. Luckily, my boy, prior Navy, he got out. I was still in the military, and he reached out to me asking, hey, I'm a real estate agent now, and I see these dudes getting it with real estate investing. Like, I want to tap into that. So he asked me to partner up with him. At the time, I was going to Japan, so we put a halt to that for a couple years until I got back. When I got back, I at first still doing the military thing. I said, let me be an angel investor. So I dropped some money into the property, and I just watched from the sidelines. And then after that deal sold, and I probably put like maybe 7-8K in. I maybe made like 3-4K or something like that. I'm like, all right, there's something here, right? So the proof of concept, at least. You hear it, you see it, but to see it like right in front of me happen, it kind of gave me the even more interest. All right, next deal, like I'm trying to be boots on the ground in there doing it. So he was gracious enough to allow me to be able to be instead of a silent partner, an active partner. So we jumped in the deal with that. And from there, we done like 12. I lost count. Like last flip we did, or last time I was counting was like 9 or 10 flips.
Wow. Nice.
So now we're in buy and hold. So buy and hold, what I mean by that is you buy it and then you rent it out. If it's turnkey, it's good to go. Turnkey means already ready to go. Like when you get an apartment and you move into an apartment complex, it's already ready to go.
Retail purchase.
Yeah. So you could renovate it. So that's what we've done these past couple of years is we realized a lot of times is when we flip the properties, two things that happen. That's not to your benefit. It looks all pretty and cute that you get potentially a $20,000, $30,000 check, right? It's not always 30, 40. So that's a myth for those out there thinking that every time you flip a property, you're going to get $30,000, $40,000. That's not always the case. There's fees associated. Don't let HGTV fool you, okay? So what we realize is that the banks are looking at us as in we're liquidating all our assets, the asset being the property we just flipped. So once we sell it, it's no longer something that's still in our portfolio. So since then, I read a book called BRRRR. In the book, which BRRRR stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. So in the book, and he even talked about that, is banks want to see that asset still. It's like kind of like thinking like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is using his stocks to borrow money from the banks and don't have to pay taxes on this. The $500 million he borrowed because he never sold the asset. But it's to the banks, it's leverage, it's collateral that we're able to use to lend to you. And then he gets a tax deduction for the interest he pays on that loan for borrowing his own money. Yeah, absolutely. So same concept with the home is an asset. If you don't sell it, you fix it up, you increase, add value to it, you rent it out, so that's cash flow. Somebody else is paying your mortgage, so that's forced depreciation on the property, forced equity, paying down equity on the property. Like all of that just made way more sense than getting hit with the capital gains tax when you flip the property to the money lost from the cash flow that you get from rent income. So anyway, that's a strategy we've been using for the past couple of years. It's been working out very well. It's been making it easier for us to get loans at a lower interest rate because they see our rent roll. They see basically our portfolio sheet. Now, I think you asked now. I might be getting ahead of myself. I'm at the stage where I want to get away from single families. I want to get into multi-units because although that sounds great and from the money that the amount of doors and all that, you still have one door, one income. Right. So if one person falls into tough times, you fall into tough times.
Right.
If one person just wants to be F it, I'm not going to do it, then you have to be like, all right, I'm still going to pay it. And there's been 2 times in the past 3 years I got stuck with the bill for some thousands of dollars. One was almost $20,000. I still haven't got my money back. So multi-unit is where it's at. And that was during COVID, right? COVID, they had those sanctions on saying you can't evict people, and it just delayed the process. And so, yeah, I still got a bit of taste.
When you can evict people, like the process take sometimes months.
Absolutely.
Depending on on the jurisdiction you're in. So
Yeah.
So that's a very tricky situation.
So walk us through that very first deal that you did. You said that you were an angel investor. You just kind of on the side. And to most of our audience, they might be thinking of that position like, hey, I don't want to really get my feet dirty.
Yeah.
I don't want to get my hands dirty. I just want to invest my money and then kind of just see where it goes from there. So walk us through that. What kind of deal was that and how did it play out?
All right, so for that deal, and actually, ironically, not knowing going into that, I think that's the best way for people who don't have the capital is to shadow somebody who's actually who's doing it, right? Whether if you only have a couple $1,000s, you just put a couple $1,000s in instead of trying to carry that whole weight yourself. And then you get to learn from their mistakes, right? First, you might have some skin in the game, but you're not putting all your skin in the game. So for that particular deal, it was some years ago. This was like 2016, 2017. So it was kind of fuzzy to me, the exact details. It was a single family. I want to say it was pre-foreclosure. And because I was the angel investor, I was just looking at the numbers. I really didn't look at the property, like walk in and tell you. I want to say it was like a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, and we added extra bedroom, and then we added extra bedroom. And when I say we, because I wasn't active, I'm an angel investor, but an extra bedroom was added, and a master bath was added. So that allowed, but through that process, we understand that your team is the most important thing, right? We try to GC the property ourselves. That became a headache all in itself, trying to have the right GC? General contractor. Okay. So your general contractor is the person is hopefully they're licensed, right, and they're bonded. But your general contractor is the person that you're dealing with. Like, so if I'm from an investor, I'm dealing with one person, and they have a whole bunch of subcontractors below him or her that are managing the property. As far as if you need an HVAC guy, you need an electrician, you need the drywall, he's managing the ins and outs, making sure that everything is happening seamless or should be. We learned that the hard way. We try to do the project thing where we try to have everything in a milestone period type of phase. It didn't work out to our benefit. And then we were picking the wrong people because we thought if we get the lowest cost, then it will save our bottom line. Sometimes paying a little bit more saves you the headache. That's the biggest thing is like pay that little bit. Like we wonder why people pay so much money for these high brand things, right? But it's because they last so long, right? Some people may do it for the clout of having a Louis Vuitton, but true people who are buying it, who have the money, doing it because of the quality. So sometimes you just need to pay a little bit more for the quality. So when we exited out a deal, when we sold the deal, like I said, it was myself as one of the angel investors, and then my business partner, or at the time, just my friend who just allowed me to get in on the deal. He had 2 other partners, 2 active partners who were part of the deal. So I took a portion of his percentage. So he split it 3 ways, and then because I basically JV'd with him, I took a certain percentage of however much it was that I put in comparison to what he put, and that's the percentage I got.
Okay. What exactly, what jurisdiction are you investing in? Is it where you live, or where's or do you invest nationwide?
So I would like to get nationwide. I would do nationwide. Actually, I was a networking event. Somebody asked me the exact same thing. I had to pause and really think about it. Of course, anything that's near me, because I get to put my hands on it, I get to see, I get to touch, I need to get follow up on it. And maybe that's just because I haven't really broken those shackles of being hands-on type of person. But I'm definitely nationwide, especially if it's turnkey, because turnkey is it alleviates the fact I got to find somebody, a team, to be able to put the property and get the property where I needed to get it to. But yeah, so right now I'm investing mainly still in the Hampton Roads area, like the Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Virginia, and that's mainly because that's just where majority of my military career was at.
So you're investing in where you know, basically.
Absolutely. But definitely in Maryland, that's why I'm going to these networking events, so I can meet new people and create the same team I created down there, create them up here, and there's rinse and repeat, do the same process, right?
So what were some of the initial challenges that you had to go through? And what are some of the current challenges that you have to go through?
So the initial challenge was, money, right? It's finding the deal, learning how to properly evaluate the deal, having a proper team in place that's not going to mismanage the project, your money, and all of that, right? And then as well as the lender, like finding lenders that would, because when you first start out, everybody says you go to this lender, go to this lender, but if you only have one deal under your belt, like you're still looked at somebody who's still like kind of. So that's me. Another lesson learned is that if you could, we have what's called, or what I call, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people call it, like you could have a partner who's the credit person. So you partner with somebody who has good credit if you have bad credit. You could partner with somebody who has experience and you don't have the experience. You have the money, but they have the experience. Right. So y'all come together. So you come together like, I got the money for down payment, but you have the experience. So the bank is going to look at you as, okay, since you're part of this deal and you have 8 flips, we're more likely to back this deal now. So that was something that we also learned, is just having a GC part of our team allowed us to be able to fast pace through the lender process more, because they're not looking at us because we're not the GC. They're looking at this individual who has a portfolio, and they're able to look at what he has or she has done.
So you put them on the GC on the deal?
No. They'll just go through not a background check. It's just a form that you fill out depending on the lender, saying, okay, who's the lender? Are they licensed? What's their license number if they're Class A, Class B, whatever have you? You kind of put some of the properties, and they'll do whatever. I don't know what kind of investigation they do back in the background to validate if the address you put down is something that they did, but that's what they ask you for, and then you go from there.
Okay.
I got a question. So, how did you find your GC, and how did you find your team? Because I'm assuming as a seasoned investor, you're gonna have to have your GC, your realtor, a guy that you use for your inspections. Like, how did you build your team?
So the GC mainly came from just like, and it wasn't even intentional, but it was just as people, because we were in a suffer, like people, you drop by other people and you go ask them, like somebody else is getting a renovation done, and you see, oh, that was creative what they did. Let's say they created a porch on the side of the house instead of the back of the house, right? So you just stroll up and just ask the guy, like, hey, you just ask them questions, right? To see, like, did you do this? And then they may just be the subcontractor, or they could be the GC as well. So that's how we kind of built our team. So we didn't totally remove ourselves from the GC. Sometimes, and this is not a play that I recommend, but sometimes you have somebody who just adds their name to the application, right? And you just give them a little fluff, right? But again, that's not something you're supposed to do. So if you do it, just be mindful of how that goes. But so just going around, like you could even go to the city. It's public record who's pulling the permits. So if you got such and such, let's say Builder Bob LLC, the information is on there. You could go call that person, right? Like if you're driving by a property, you see this property's renovated, you like how it looks. Who built this property? Who fixed up this property? 3 months ago, it looked like trash. You could go to city, you could pull city records, you could get who pulled the permits. That's your GC. And that's a way to figure out who. You already got the quality of work because you've seen it. You see what it looks like. Right. So now you just need to know who's the person that did it. And that's the free way of doing it.
Okay. And how'd you, like the realtor and the inspector, how did you build those relationships?
Well, the realtor, if you got a good realtor, the realtor just got a Rolodex of people, right? Okay. So that's and luckily for me, my boy is a realtor. Okay. So him being a real estate agent, that's how a lot of our deals came. He was looking at it from two folds. How can I help this person who came to me as a client, as a real estate agent? And then if this can't sell on the market the traditional way, can I help them as a real estate investor, right? So I've been very appreciative of having him as he was a a pivotal part of our team by the fact that he was able to look at it from dual hats.
So being an investor, do you invest your own capital, or I heard you speak on loans? Do you use the bank's capital?
Absolutely, the bank's capital all the day. You still got your down payments and such. Right. You got to come to 20%.
This is OPM.
Yeah, absolutely. OPM, other people's money, right? So definitely using because this is the way I think about it, right? Let's say I had $100,000 liquid, right? If I take that $100,000 and let's say hypothetically, these are just random numbers, like if there is a property out there that you could get for $30,000-$40,000 and put $30,000-$40,000 to fix it, and there's an upside of a $50,000-$60,000 equity, hit me up at Randall Monfiston on Instagram because I would love to hear about this. But let's say hypothetically, you have a property that you acquire for 40, you put 40 in it, and it's like 150 to ARV, the after repair value after you sell it, right? It still doesn't do me like any benefit by using all my own money because now my money's tied up in that deal. So if another deal comes by, I can't tap into that deal. My money's all tied up. But if I have $100,000, that's I'm gonna borrow $80,000, 20% of that, like quick math is I'm probably $16,000. I could put 16 in this deal. I get a lead from another deal. I could put let's say hypothetically the similar numbers. I could put 16 in that deal, and I'm still using the big bulk of it from OPM. That's the goal of OPM. As long as you're beating what you're borrowing for as far as the interest rate is concerned, why not use their money?
Leverage.
Why use your money?
So when you're doing a lot of these deals, because you mentioned that you're at 9 right now?
Now what, flips?
Yeah.
Like, it's not
is it active or?
The flips is like we're 9+. So
okay.
I lost track. So right now we have 4 doors.
Okay.
So 4 properties, and I have one on the side just be by myself. So 5 doors.
Gotcha. So when you're going through all this stuff, how do you start managing? Because I'd imagine that at some point, like doing one deal is like, all right, cool, I'm getting into it. Doing 2 deals, like I'm just doing what I did before. But now when you start getting into multiple deals, especially at the same time, how do you start managing the people, the money, like just in your mindset as well?
So, lucky for me, it's rinse and repeat, right? So for us, it was like it's like depending on how much you have to repair of the home. So, but it's always, let's say we was going down to the studs. You pull the piping out, you pull electrical out, you upgrade electrical, you do the plumbing, permits come in, or you do the HVAC if you got to do duct work or whatever have you. You do your roughing inspection. After the roughing inspection, and then they come in, they give you a pass. Then you start buttoning things up, throw insulation up, drywall. It's all like it's like a process. Once you've done it 1 and 2, like you know the process, right? You know when to insert things, right? And then sometimes if you got a contractor at one spot and he's hung up, instead of wasting his time there, he could go. Let's say the permits didn't clear for plumbing or something like that. So I can't use the drywall guy there. So I use the drywall guy. So it's a matter. It's a matter of just knowing where you at in the stage and also knowing your contractors. Because if you let them sit cold for too long, they're going to go somewhere else. So that's another thing. You need to constantly feed the contractors, right? Like you can't give them all the business unless you just got multiple deals. If you big on some Grant Cardone type stuff, and you got like hundreds of properties all day long coming your way, then that's a different story. But the goal is not to have that drywall guy or that one person waiting on somebody else. The goal is to try to keep the rotation going as smooth as possible. But sometimes we have been stuck where permits have held us up. There's been a time where we had a guy do a code. What is it called? It was not a man. It was the plumber. The plumber was doing to code, but the city switched the code book during the time. Basically, the permit code of how.
While you were in progress.
Huh?
While you guys were in progress.
While we're in progress, we didn't know that. So, mind you, 3-4 months prior to that, previous deal, same plumber, same inspector, past inspection. So it's not like the two variables change. It's the exact same people,
right.
Plumber, inspector, new property. Plumber, inspector came out. We got a new code. New code. The code has been on the books for like over a year now. But for whatever city, the city says, no, you need to start implementing this code. So I guess by whatever, I don't know, policies in place, the inspector said, I can't grandfather you in, being that you already started. You have to fix some of the things. Some of the things over my head, what he said, it was like some pipe clippings and some other stuff. I'm like, all right, whatever. So that delayed us. Right. That delayed us. One, he had to remove some pipe in the way that the angle was laid. How big of a hole they put through some joist was, I guess, would cause some type of potential damage of the wood splitting. So he had to fill those in. Man, it required rework, a lot of rework. Let me rephrase that. I've done a lot worse when it comes to rework, but that's not on the biggest end of rework. But it did stop us for like a good 3-4 weeks. Okay. Yeah, so that's one challenge. There's plenty of challenges. There's always a hiccup. There's always something. Always.
That's real estate.
So on that delay, like, did it dramatically affect like your profits or anything like that, or was it just the time loss was just the major?
It was biggest the time loss. So lucky for us on that particular deal, we had already in our draw sheet. So a draw sheet is when you're using a lender, they want to know itemized what you're going to spend on each thing, right? So one, you're supposed to add, not inflate, but you're supposed to add like a buffer because you don't know to the overall project. So we do a 10% spread across everything in case anything comes up. But for us, luckily, the windows we thought were a lot worse than, or were not as worse as we thought, right? So we were able, luckily one of the vendors said, hey, you could just refurbish these windows instead of popping them out and replacing them. So that saved us money. He was able to allocate that money towards the plumbing. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where a good vendor comes to place, because the window guy could have definitely been like, nah, and then upcharge us and popped out those windows and put new windows in instead of just saving us money. So that's a blessing.
I figured you guys was the green, so he couldn't do that to you.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably. Like I wasn't peeping the windows. It was something that could be refurbished. I even know it because it was, yeah. But
Okay. You mentioned that you said you're trying to move away from single families into more multi-families. Is there like a major difference, like how you underwrite those properties, and what's the difference between buying and holding a single family versus holding a multifamily? And what is considered a multifamily in the area of Hampton Roads? Because I know I've heard somewhere it said in Houston, like anything more than 2 is considered commercial, but like in this area, anything 5 or more is commercial, but anything like 4 or less is still like residential. So how do you underwrite those?
so I can't speak for them. So you gave me a lot of questions at one time.
my
But I'm gonna hit as many. If I miss anything, let me know. So from a national level, I can't speak because I'm not nationally on a whole multi-unit perspective. But I do know from a lenders, the ones I've spoken to, just to try to get a roundabout of how much they'll lend me for a multi-unit. 5 is the threshold. So if you got 4 and below, that's considered residential. 5 and above is considered commercial. Now, when you do multi-unit, from at least, and again, I haven't bought a multi-unit. I'm still going through the process of trying to do that. But of course, like, you still got to do diligence. Like I don't walk into this saying I want a multi-unit and then somebody gives me one and I did no due diligence. So I'm still going through the due diligence process. But it's a lot easier to get a commercial multi-unit than it is a residential multi-unit, because commercial properties are looking at the rent roll. They're looking at what that property is going to bring in. When you're looking at a single family, they got to go off of what the other properties are doing as far as comps concerned. So if you already have tenants in there that have been here for 2-3 years and you got rent roll on the commercial side, it makes that process that much smoother for you to be able to get a property or get a loan. And again, this is my understanding of what I've heard from different lenders. It's easier to just go 5 and above, because how much more you add in between 4 and 5 on the value or the price tag of the home or the apartment complex. But the deal structure changes dramatically between that 4 and 5. So I'm not saying against 4, right? But I'm definitely, if I have opportunity to get 5, I'm gonna go for 5.
Okay.
So if you were to go back and knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently to scale and grow your portfolio?
I would put myself around more people. Basically, your network, right? Your network is your net worth, right? So I'm pretty sure it's cliche at this point, because I'm pretty sure multiple people, it used to be like, oh man, that's dope, like 5-6 years ago. Now everybody's saying it, right? But that's real. It's real, right? Like putting yourself, I wish I would have took more time to put myself around like OGs, people who've been doing it, right? I always felt, or at least when I first started out, I felt that because I'm a novice, and me trying to be in a room with like your Shark Tank type of level of people, that I would be like get out of here. Like you just like this insignificant person, get out of here. But a lot of times I'm learning, even as I'm growing, there's people who got that. I was at apartment investment meeting and they just want to give the information. Like I underestimated like how much these people who like each one teach one. Like I thought that they would be like, yo, you don't belong here type of thing. Right. So I was always a little shy of trying to go for somebody who's too high, I guess, above me, I would say, as far as knowledge level would be, to be able to just like pick their brain, ask questions. I feel like they're too busy to be asking will probably be trivial questions in my mind, right? To them, it's not like, this is how you do it. This is like the whole concept of lending in apartment complexes, right? That was initiated just being around a guy who has apartment complex. He got like 3 over 50 unit apartment complexes, right? And he was just sharing information, and it was just like a flood because this is what they do day in, day out. So when you have a passion for it, huh?
So you're not stopping his bankroll?
Nah, absolutely. And you're in a networking event, right? So when you had a networking event, that's what you talk about yourself. You talk about what you do. That's the whole purpose, right? So I was like, man, I was just getting free game, man.
Where'd you find these networking events?
Meetup.com. Meetup.com is where I go to, and I just look up and I just see like what they like, if it's something that aligns with my interests. Of course, if they've done multiple events, right? Trying to weed out the ones that maybe, I guess, per se, duds, if you will. But just try to find ones that are fruitful. I'm not saying I'm shy away from those that may, because I believe just like I'm receiving information from them, there's nothing wrong with me being in an environment where I may be the person who's smarter than everybody else or more knowledgeable. I don't like to say the word smarter, but more knowledgeable about real estate, and I can share the information. Because I also think that if you go into something learning it to teach somebody, you're more likely to have that information stick in your brain. So teaching somebody else just reaffirms information that I learned, and then you ask questions in a different way that I may have not thought, and it makes me go do some homework to then learn something new. Yeah,
that's crazy. That's actually how I learn. If I can't teach it back to my friends, then I feel like I don't know the information.
I forgot who said that, and I'm pretty sure somebody's like, if you can't teach it, then you don't really know it. Yeah,
I know one of the books I read was Jim Quick, Limitless, where he's basically the guy that you go to learn how to learn, and he's like, look, this is one of the best ways to learn something is to basically learn it and listen to it in the way that you're going to basically say, hey, after this, I'm going to go teach somebody it.
Got you.
Because if you have to go teach it, you have to be able to speak to it and say it back in a way that it makes sense to somebody else.
Yeah.
So if you say, if I'm like, all right, cool, Randall told me this, I'm gonna go out and say, oh yeah, well, multifamily this and this is how you get into it and this is what you do. And someone's like, huh? And I'm like, well, actually, it means this thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, I have to fully understand that or understand that concept.
Yeah. Is that the guy who had some type of cranial injury when he was a kid? Yeah.
Amazing book.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I've seen a couple of his Instagram quick thing. I'm like, man, this is in depth. Like I think he taught like the people from X-Men cast or something like that on how to remember the lines faster.
So he taught X-Men. He will like a lot of the actors, politicians, they go to him to learn how to speed read, how to remember more, how to sleep better, eat better. It's a lot. It's a whole.
And that's in the. You said what's the name of the book again?
Limitless.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it upstairs. So
yeah, I need to check that out.
Yeah. I highly recommend.
If I could speed read, man, I'd be retaining information so much. I'd be having to reread sentences over just to make sure it sticks in my brain.
So this a little off topic, but I went from reading 250 words a minute to 750.
Wow. And actually understanding, like you're able to read the words and it's like
I get better. Like I'm getting better. Like today, I read like 4 chapters of a book, and each chapter is like 10 to 15 pages long, right? So it's like 40, 50 pages in like 45 minutes.
Man.
Yeah. Because it's like the premise is like if you could read faster, more, and understand what you're reading, how many books would you read? What would you read? What would you learn?
Yeah.
And so I guess the same premise goes to like if you could use that same kind of timeline when it comes to like things like real estate, how would you do that? And that's what you're talking about, which is like meetup.com. You can get 20, 30, 40, 50 years of experience just having a conversation with somebody by going to these events, networking and stuff like that. And so when it comes to like asking those bits of advice from people, because again, like you said, most people when they start off, they're scared to go talk to somebody who may seem more knowledgeable or bigger than them.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice to somebody to say, hey, here's how you go approach somebody in that situation? Like if you go to meetup.com and you go to a networking event.
So again, so this is what I like to think of, right? When you at a place where you have like, let's say you go to a sports bar. At the sports bar, do you question whether or not you should talk to somebody else about what football game is on? Do you stop and be like, yo, what do you think about this game? Do you stop and think about what do you think about this player? Like, you know that you're in this space because y'all share the same type of desire, right? That's the same thing at the network event. If you remove the fear and look at it just on the most simplistic level, We are all here at this network event to engage in conversation, to share information. Like, I'm not here to look at you like as if I'm better than you, and you're not to look at me as far as I'm your superior. I'm just here to engage in dialogue, to share something different, or that's the whole purpose of communication. Is to communicate, is to learn something different, whether it's about a subject or about a person. That's all a networking event is to share information. So if you go just to like, hey, I'm just here to share information or just receive information, no one's going to no one should. If that person is doing that, then I don't know. Then that's not the networking you want to be at. Yeah, they got their own issues, right? But if you do come across that, like, just know that that's an anomaly. That's not the normal thing. Like, the people there want to share information, right? Because not only are they sharing information because they're probably paying it forward, it's because that you may be the next person that blows up, and they want you to remember them as somebody that you could come to bring a deal. So that's another thing that's potentially an opportunity, because oftentimes, just because you're older and you're wiser and like you're in your 50s and your 60s and you're doing great, somebody in their 20s could do what you did in 10, 15 years that took you 40 years to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And then now that person is like, I remember, like, let me shout out such and such who was my mentor when I was only 23, and now I'm 35 and I'm doing great. And then now he's getting people that's coming to him to get to seek the same type of knowledge, right? So it's a full circle, right? You never know who you're gonna come across. And I'm realizing more and more, like, it's not only how we look at it, but people who are richer. It's all about relationships. So they want to establish a relationship as well.
Okay. All right, let's kind of pivot, because we see that you're kind of building a successful real estate business, but you're also into broadcasting or podcasting.
Yep.
So, what are the similarities and what are like the key differences between growing like a real estate business or a broadcasting business?
So you mean like a podcast?
Yes,
You talking about?
yes.
So for my podcast, one shout out the Forte podcast. Forte community on IG, Facebook, YouTube. So
We'll put that in the description as well.
Absolutely. So we just started that. So last year, I turned 40. Me and my business partner both turned 40. We're a month apart in age. So we were thinking about, like, how can we do a dope party? And if Carter Cofield, I'm not sure if y'all seen him on Instagram. Yeah. So he's a CPA, and he's always trying to create or share different creative ways on how to be able to save on taxes. He came across, and it was crazy. I swear your iPhone be listening to you. 'Cause I was talking about a birthday, and then I see, how can you throw a birthday party tax-free? Instantaneously, I'm locked in looking at this video. Like, what? So if you add business activity or a mastermind to it with your friends, that's a tax write-off. All the money you spent is a tax write-off. Yep. I mean, call my boy up like, yo, let's run this play. I don't even think I had to sell pitch it to him. He just said, let's do it. So we created a network event. At the network event, we said, all right, let's do it big. Like, because it's our birthday, we did a rooftop, all-white network event. It was a network party. It's not your regular, we just were around in a quiet place, talking, whatever. It was a DJ, there was food, there was drinks. It was like a party feel, but it was the first part of it was more of a social hour, like with music playing in the background, but not too much that's going to drown out the conversation. We got to yell like you in a club, but people were able to engage in conversation, exchange business cards. Then we transitioned where we had our sponsors, like people who want to speak to the crowd and advertise their services to the crowd. They speak, and then it transitioned into more party. And because it was rooftop, you could move away from the music, continue whatever conversation you were having, or you could be part of the party, dancing, whatever have you. So I think that was the birth. We didn't think about anything past that moment. Right. We just thought about it being this one-time thing. We have all people that we're cool with. Our people that we're cool with could then network with one another, and maybe they bring some new people we haven't met. So we started getting feedback like, y'all should do this more often. And we thought about it. I'm like, okay, like maybe there we have something here. Mm-hmm. And so our goal now is to be able to create a space where it's a fun, like, think about how many people who are businessmen or women, right? It's not oftentimes that you have two people who are in a couple that are both business, right? So a lot of time, the man or woman, whomever who's non-business, left at home while the person who's the entrepreneur out there hustling. I just created an environment where you could bring, this could be date night / business at the same time. Mm-hmm. So you got that, right? Then you have people who are in different industries. I'm not trying to focus only on real estate networking, because there's commonalities amongst all businesses, whether it's running your books, whether it's lead generation, whether it's marketing, all of that, right? So why not have somebody, I think you mentioned you have an automation business or some sort, right? Like, So I could benefit that as a real estate agent. Like I would love it for some people who text me to get automatic response on text, right? That's if I'm not sure the details of it, but if that's along lines, then you have something like that, right? But it doesn't have to be all real estate. It doesn't have to be all lawyers. It doesn't have to be all CPAs. It doesn't have to be all people marketing. It could be somebody who's not an entrepreneur. It could be somebody who's like, I even gave an example of, let's say you work at like, I don't know, Coca-Cola. Oh, Coca-Cola don't advertise, but that's the one that comes to my mind. But let's say Coca-Cola advertise, and you work for Coca-Cola's advertising department. How beneficial would that be to somebody else who's running their business on how does Coca-Cola generate leads? What are they doing? Like, what software? Do they have their own internal software they have? Do they work with a firm? Like, how are they doing that? You could share that information at the networking event, right? And now you have this big conglomerate insider information about how they're doing things that you could do at your level, right? And replicate it. That's all it is just trying to exchange that information and not have a stovepipe of it's only your niche that you need a network around. Nah, network across the board, right? And then before that, we have a mastermind from 5 to 6. It was 5 to 6, but we went a little over, where we had some millionaire panelists who were just sharing with audience members who were like either novice or still haven't taken that leap into trying to start their business, to be able to pick the brains of these millionaires on how they've overcome, whether it's pivoting from a 9-to-5 to entrepreneurship, or pivoting from like doing one business and say, all right, that business failed, I'm gonna do this other business. Like all of this, just like you're asking me, like the experiences that they have, whatever trials, tribulations that they went through, they just share that, because that's all it is that once you get behind a curtain and you realize that we're all human, we all make mistakes, we all have frustrations, all that is shared. The person that's done it and who's succeeded just pushed through those frustrations, pushed through those fears, like overcame those hurdles and continue to show up. As long as you don't quit and you learn from your mistakes, you're gonna succeed. So that's the whole purpose of the networking event. So from there, we were like, all right, how do we garner interest? How do we promote this? And that's where the podcast is the best way to reach out and touch people. So we're not necessarily, it's great if it happens, but we're not going to be like, we're not looking to be the next podcast that blows up and like $1 million worth of game. So if that happens, by all means, hey, if y'all want to follow us, keep on following us. But our goal is to have the guests that you see on our podcast who are doing great things to be for you to see them at the networking event as well. Mm-hmm. So if you've seen someone on the podcast in the industry that you're interested in and be like, yo, that's dope what they were doing, I want to meet them in person, you can meet them at our networking event.
And where do you have you said you had an event, where was that at?
This was at the Cambria Riverfront Hotel in D.C. Mm-hmm. So that was, if you're not familiar, it's Navy Yard area, right across from Nat Stadium. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think, didn't you guys have an event there before?
Nah.
Was that the rooftop one with you and Tony? Or that's not the right place?
Nah, that was next to Audi Field.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that was.
But we got to...
Well, it's there. It's near there. The Cambria Riverfront is near Audi.
Yeah, it's out.
You need another rooftop.
This one? Yeah, I'll check it out. Definitely.
Yeah. After I'll take you up, and then... Because I'm actually... right when I was walking back in, I was taking pictures because I'm hosting event spaces here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How
do they manage, or is there any... I guess friction when it comes to having a big crowd of people cycling through?
You have to just reserve it. And as long as you reserve it, because like in here, there's a sign right there where I think this space alone holds like 90 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you in the rooftop?
I think that's like 90 people as well, maybe 100 and something.
Okay.
There's two parts though. One, the inside holds 90. The outside also holds.
Got you. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, taking it back a little bit though. Little known tip. I don't know if you might know this, but this also for the listeners. If you could turn those events into basically a nonprofit, create your own nonprofit and have it sponsor the events. Yeah. Not only will you become tax exempt, but everything purchased for the events will be a write off, and then you can receive grants and more to actually do stuff, because you're going to at that point be doing stuff for the community and educating the community. So,
bro, you see this right here? this is an example of a networking event right here, right? Like you just share what you got going on, and somebody else is helping you solve that problem. Man, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Definitely. Now I'm about to go Google some stuff. Matter of fact, I'm gonna email CPA and be like, yo, figure this out. This is what I'm trying. Yeah,
I got you.
We'll talk after this. That's another good point, is that a lot of times people try to think of like, how do I, like you said, be everything, all in one, omnipresent. How do I figure out how to do my tax? How do I figure out how to get the best tax write-offs and stuff like that? Rather than And like you said, be the GC.
Yeah.
As opposed to paying that extra little bit to say,
Yeah.
hey, look, maybe I'm not the best person for this. Let me go ahead and hire somebody. So you mentioned that you kind of had a little struggle with that in the beginning. Talk about that, like trying to transition to not being everything.
So I think it was quicker. And if my my business partner watches this, because he's still trying to transition from that, and I'm trying to pull him back, right? So I transitioned quicker because I know, like, I'm not trying to be in there knocking down walls, moving stuff. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I'm better behind the computer, tracking the numbers, calling up to see where is the supplies that we need that's supposed to get delivered, something like that. That's my thing. But aside from that, I do believe everybody has their own lane, and the more you try to scale, you're limiting yourself because you're one person. It's better to have, like I was saying with other people's money, just same example. If I try to use all of my resources, my individual energy to do this one thing, I'm only getting one thing done. But if I step back and I allow 3 or 4 people to handle that one thing, now I'm able to get my energy spread across 2, 3, 4, 5 different projects because I have different people in different areas working in their genius. So if you allow people working in their genius and you focus on because your job is to be the visionary, the person that's trying to figure out on how to move things forward. If you're stuck in the weeds, you're not, like, who's looking out for, like, past the forest to see if there's some bad weather coming or something like that. If you're so stuck down here. So, and again, this is, like, not only from just me being frustrated and figuring out how can I, like, minimize my stress, but also just from network events, from YouTube videos. I forgot what book I read.
I was going to say, it sounded like Traction
Is Attraction? That's what it is.
by Gino Wickman.
I don't remember.
It's
so many. All that stuff blurs together. It's like you get the information, you just, all right, now I got this back here. I forgot where I got it from, but yeah.
It's a gray and orange book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And it's basically talking about that, where it's like you need to have the visionary whose sole purpose is the vision.
Yeah.
Implementing the vision. Then you need to have the technician who's
The person who implements it, like the more who's hands-on with building the thing. So you have your visionary who can see it where it needs to go.
Yeah.
But then you have someone who can implement the structure.
Yeah.
Implement your day-to-day. So put your systems in place.
Absolutely. And think about this, right? Like, you think Jeff Bezos, you think Elon Musk, or all of them have all these workers, right? Like, granted, like, we're talking about thousands of packages and thousands of cars. So yes, they physically can, but the part of that is so this way they could think about the bigger thing, right? So why not? We think that we're saving $1, but the reason they did that is because they gain more money. So why not we
They're
replicate
more
it?
valuable being the visionary.
Yes, absolutely.
And they got their time back. So
And they got the time back, right? Like, another thing, it was definitely a YouTube video I was watching, right? The example he gave, and this guy gave, was that a lot of people think about the rich on, now some of them do it for the fact that they just got endless amount of supply of money, but some people do it to get the time back. When you have a chauffeur, when you have a maid, when you have a chef, it's not solely just because, oh, I got money, I want to be able to kick this bread and have somebody else, so I'm lazy. No, I need my time back. If I'm busy trying to cook and spend 2-3 hours a day or whatever, meal prep or whatever have you, that's time lost. So if you putting time into a business deal, vice cooking, you just gain more money. As long as you doing something that equates to more money than what you're going to spend on that chef, then it makes sense.
Yep.
Same concept with OPM. If I'm going to make more money than it costs me to borrow money from you, it makes sense. So if you think about it, as long as you are making more money than what you're spending on whoever you're hiring or whoever you're borrowing money from, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now you spoke about using your podcast to leverage more, attract more attention towards your networking events.
Yeah.
Like, are you able to leverage your podcast for like leads in real estate or other business ventures as well, or like how do you use that?
I have not. Like, that's a good point, and I probably could. I have not, because May 4th is the Forte Experience, Cambria Riverfront Hotel. Be there, all white, luxury, food, drinks.
The description will be there, or we'll point you to the place where to get.
Yeah. You can get your tickets now. Early bird, www.theforteexperience.com, www.theforteexperience.com. But back to your question. I have not thought about that because we're putting all energy into trying to direct people to the networking event. Over time, I want to give before I ask, right? So I think if you're constantly feeding, because then you get building a relationship. 2, people are gaining some trust, right? So once they have that relationship and that trust, then they'll be more willing. Like you just gave me some information, but I sat here for 45, 50 minutes, right? And then you gave me some game, right? I'm giving information, then I receive. That's just how it's an ebb and flow. I give and then I receive. So I want to give as much as I can, and then if deals come my way from that, people know that from the podcast that I do real estate investing. So I think that will organically come without even me even saying anything or intentionally trying to get people to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's also in Rick Ross' book. That's how he got into Bel Air. Because he just kept giving value. He kept promoting, He said, look, I gave so much value that when it came time to structure the deal, I knew how much value I brought to that person because I gave that person so much value up front that when it came time to return it to me, it seemed like a fraction of what I gave them.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
I think that it translates to a lot of stuff like what we're doing in networking and real estate, where, like you said, you're trying to give out as much value to people in networking. Like, hey, I'm gonna bring this person together, bring that person together, and now those two are now in business because of something that I did. And if I come to them and say, hey, I'm trying to put or structure a deal together, they're like, well, yeah, of course, because you helped bring us together, and now we're business partners. And stuff
Absolutely. And I didn't even think about that, but as you're saying it makes sense. But again, I haven't even framed my mind to even think like that, which maybe I should. But either way, again, it's about y'all. It's about y'all being able to establish relationships. It's about y'all being able to have a good time. It's about you being able to do your date night with your significant other and still do business activities, so they don't feel like you paying attention more to the business than paying attention to what matters most important, which is the love that y'all have. Or if you're single, I'm single, so what's up?
Yeah.
I did want to also ask, like, on the topic of like real estate, when it comes to real estate, you mentioned a lot of like things that you thought it was one way versus the reality. Right? What are some misconceptions that you're seeing from other people that you're interacting with and talking to? They're like, oh, well, I thought it was this way, but you're telling me it's this, and that's actually better than what I thought.
You're talking about as far as what I see, like they're sharing information to me that is breaking, like it's kind of breaking my paradigm of how I thought real estate is, or how people are
other way around.
Okay, or how people when they're like I'm sharing with them.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is I already shared it was the how much money you're going to get, right? And the other thing is I want people to realize is that they like everybody wants to go for the big like this. Again, I forgot who said this to me. It's like it's better to have 10% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape. And what that means is that it's better to have a portion of something that's big, like just have a small fraction of that, than to have a whole of something that's even less. A lot of times people want to be greedy with like hold information in their chest, right? Instead of collaborating with somebody else. A lot of times people don't want to share. Yeah, they want to gatekeep, right? And I think we're united we stand, divided we fall. The more fists you have, the more powerful the punch. If I try to punch you with my point, like my pointing finger, it ain't gonna be too effective. If I close my fist, like we doing some things, right? So why not collaborate? And I think a lot of times people think that they gotta suffer in silence and figure it out on their own. Two, they can't do it with a partnership. And I think that we're hugely hindering ourselves, especially in our community. Like our community is like it's survival of the fittest, and then like if I tell you about it, then you gonna tell somebody else, and then I miss out on opportunity, right? Do on your own, right?
Got it out the mud.
Yeah, exactly.
Like why? Like only we're the only ones doing that, right? Like people on a whole higher level than us, right? They're always looking to broker deals. They're always looking to partner up. Like again, other people's money. Why do I need to come? Even if I got $100 million in the bank, I'm not coming to this deal with all my own money, right? I'm gonna go tell my man's, and my man's gonna tell his other man's, and then we create a whole like cipher of a deal. And then guess what? I brought you to the deal. I could have kept it to myself. I brought you the deal. When you got a deal, now you're gonna remember. Oh yeah, Randall hooked me up on a deal. So a deal I wouldn't even never known about because I took less from the plate and I left some on the plate for my boys. Now when they go out and they hearing deals, they come back and tell me. So why are we not doing that, right? Like it's your network is your net worth, right?
That's OPA too.
Yeah,
other people's audience,
other people's man,
collaborating and networking.
Hey, last episode you was the one sitting here trying to figure out he's taking your shine right now on how you use the acronym and twist it into.
Hey man, he's getting better.
You see the sleeve right here? Don't worry.
But nah, I feel what you're saying because I feel like that's a lot of our struggle in our community. Like Like I remember when Jay-Z had like 1% of like the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
And people in our community were clowning and like, oh, he only owned 1%, but
It's a $1 billion organization.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And he sold that for a profit. You know,
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like that's a major issue in our community. Like, we can't grow. Like, if you have your business and say I want to purchase my way into your business.
Yeah.
Right. And people say, if you're not from my community, like, why would you sell it to him? Because there's a chance for my business to grow in ways I can't get it to on my own.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like, I just feel like that's a misconception in our community. Like, you have to have everything for it to be.
Absolutely. Actually, keeping in line with what you said, Jay-Z, and now, because I'm a big Jay, so I know I heard this from him. He was saying that even Steve Jobs didn't own 100% of Apple.
Right.
Steve Jobs only owned like 4 or 5%. Elon Musk owns like 20%. Jeff Bezos like 10, 11%. Again, these big billionaires are not owning 100%.
Right.
Why do you think you need to own 100%, right?
Right.
Like, why? Now, again, I'm not saying go sell stuff just to be selling it, right? If it makes sense and that this business is able to scale more
Exactly.
as a team than by yourself, then do it.
Exactly.
Then do it. He just recently sold his champagne company to LVMH, or not, was it LVMH?
Yes.
Yeah, LVMH. He said it's like the level that they have in their distribution system is way better than me just trying to keep 100% of my thing.
Exactly.
They open me up to a whole different market.
Exactly.
So even though he owns less in equity, I'm pretty sure that 50% now is about to skyrocket. Give him 5-10 years.
Yeah, remember
He'd be another billionaire.
People
He'd
were
be,
complaining when he sold that share in Tidal, like his major share in Tidal.
Yeah.
But it grew the business.
Absolutely.
Which was the point of it.
yeah, absolutely. You got to know when you need to exit, right? You need to partner
have
up with
an
somebody
exit
else who's able to take you to another level.
It's ingrained. It's interesting because it's ingrained in other cultures, right? In the Jewish community, it's in the Torah. It's embedded in their culture.
Yeah.
In certain African and Caribbean, you have the susu, right? Where everybody puts into a pot, and then all right, cool, we're all going to basically band together.
Yeah.
And then in certain Asian communities, you got grandma, grandpa, uncle, cousin, mom, dad. They're all in the house together.
Yeah.
Everybody's putting up into a pot, starting a business,
Yeah.
and kids work for free, right? Get all the deductions, and now all that money and the profit goes to start the next person's business.
No, it's crazy.
It's like the Rockefeller Foundation.
I was just about to bring that up. Like,
Yeah.
so I was watching something this week where it say like they have a dynasty trust.
Yeah.
Like where people inside the family, like all the life insurance go into the trust.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you want to start a business, you get the money from the trust, from
Yeah.
The board.
family. Yeah, the family votes on it. Like, yo, I think it's
the book is called "What Would the Rockefellers Do?"
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of where exactly.
There's a documentary on
No,
it
that was
too.
at MJ's event.
You know what? Right. I was editing a video and
Shout out Limitless. Remember more.
Sharice Small said that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Talked to
exactly.
him today actually.
Exactly. That's dope. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. So we do have one more question.
Yep.
So as you look ahead as the future of real estate, what is some how you positioning yourself to capitalize on the future in real estate?
Mainly, so creative finance is another thing. I don't know if you. That's a whole different topic. It's for me to break that
Like
down.
seller
So
finance.
yeah,
Subject
seller
to.
finance subject to. So essentially, instead of me going to a bank, somehow I turn the owner into a bank. So subject to is if they still have money left to pay off, then I just take over the mortgage for them, and I never have to pay the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. I pay it incrementally over the course of whatever terms I agree with the owner. Seller finance, they already own it free and clear. Let's say somebody who's in 60s, 70s, and now they hold the note, right? They're the bank, and I just pay them, right? And of course, it has to make sense that my rent that I receive off of it is more. Again, you're using their money or their asset to make more money than what they would. A lot of people just don't want to deal with the headache of being a landlord, right? So just be the bank and you don't got to deal with it. I'll deal with the maintenance. I'll deal with the complaints to the toilets, all of that. Or should I say my property manager, because I still don't want to do it. But I have a property manager to deal with that. But that creative financing, I got introduced to some people with that, a whole community. So I'm trying to dive into that. and see how I'm able to leverage that, especially with interest rates the way they are. And then multi-units. Multi-units is where I want to go. Like I want to even if I don't manage the multi-unit, be a small fraction of a portion investor into a syndicate where I could get into apartment complexes. And just a tidbit for those who are out there, because I just learned this, so y'all may already know this. I'm thinking like this apartment complex right here. You probably think it's only millionaires who have ownership in this apartment complex. Apartment complexes, there's people who have different tiers of shares. You could have $50,000 in invest in apartment complex. Syndicate. Of course, yeah, a syndicate. You gotta have a smaller percentage in comparison to who's the Class A share, but you still could get into it. And then when they sell it, you get your equity. Same concept as when you're doing a single family. So yeah, that's where I'm going. That's what I'm trying to do.
My bad, big dog.
What's
I ain't
up?
trying to keep you too long, but
Nah.
I do have one last question, and I think this is very important for the listeners. You touched on this quite a couple of times, but coaching and mentorship, and you're very knowledgeable. I know you probably got that from experience as well, but how would you say, do you have any coaches or mentors, or do you just mainly learn everything from the networking events, and could you speak on how important it is to have coaches and mentors?
So, yes to both. Yes, I learned from to all three. Yes, from experience. Yes, from a networking event, and yes, for mentorship programs. I signed up. At one point, I think I spent $10,000 on the mentorship program. Yep. So, like, invest into yourself. Probably shouldn't have paid that much, right? Because there's other programs, right? And I realized a lot of the stuff that I learned there, I probably could learn through YouTube or whatever have you. But still, there's programs out. Just find the right program. So I'm not saying just go jump into any program. Find the right program that fits for you and your level of knowledge. Because you don't want to buy into something that you already have that level. You want to buy into something that has more information than you have. And don't be afraid of these coaches. Like, again, choose the right coach. Like, everybody wants it for free. They want to be able to stop you in your tracks and ask somebody like, I would pay to have a sit down with Jay-Z. For real, I would pay. Now, I would take the $500,000. That's the running joke. But I'll take that $500,000. I'll give you $50,000 if I can have dinner with you and pick your brain, right? So don't be afraid to pay for people's time, right? Like, it's intellectual property in a sense, right? They've taken hours, years, decades of learning this information, and they're trying to paraphrase it into a smaller, bite-sized way for you to learn it in a fraction of the time it took them. So if they are charging you as a coach or as a mentor, pay that money. Because the what you make off of it, as long as you apply what they teach you, and it's the right coach. Again, I want to make sure I'm not telling you to go to just any coach. Make sure you do your due diligence, because there are some fakers out there who just take the information on YouTube and then create a course and then pretend as if they do it when they have not really done it. So you want to find somebody who's been tried and tested and who's actually walked that path of whatever industry that you're trying to be in. But yeah, definitely.
Show that work.
Show that work. Show the receipts. Yeah, that's definitely important. I will leave it with this. If people would pay to go to a college institution to get a bachelor's degree and master's degree and pay $25,000, $50,000, $60,000, depending on whatever college you go to, why don't you pay that same amount of money to feed into whatever lane you're trying to be in when it comes to it specifically? Because that's broad. They teach you a whole bunch of random stuff that's not specific to where you're going to be.
And it's becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
And it's becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
That piece of paper is becoming obsolete. As we move into the future.
Yeah.
And there's been studies that say that people value the information more when they pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
True.
And,
Yeah.
So that's another reason why you should always invest in yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. But, that's a really good point though, because like you were talking about, just like going to the networking events and you're supercharging the time that you're taking to learn everything.
Yep.
Because like, all right, cool, I can grab 10, 15, 20 years of experience from that person to understand, all right, what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
All right, these are different avenues. Seller financing, subject to. If I can't get approved for a bank loan, right?
Yeah.
Here's another way to leverage the certain things. Or even like if you're in the Navy or if you're in the Army or services, you can start leveraging, those services.
Yeah, you can use your VA loan. I want to say, like, towards the tail end, I wasn't paying too much attention to what's the latest and greatest because I was about to retire. I want to say I was hearing rumblings that they were trying to get approved where you could use your VA loan into investment properties. Fact check me on that because I'm not sure, but I know that was a topic of conversation. So yeah, there's that.
But yeah, and it's like you said, it's just so much leveraging that you can really do.
Yeah.
And people just don't really know that. And to really just scale those things, and like you said, paying for mentorships and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
To really just, again, scale and leverage that. And and you really just understand. Thought it was the sleeve. That's how you turn OPA to OPM.
Let's go. Let's go.
I thought you had another sleeve.
Thank you for checking out another episode. Be on the lookout for the next one. Peace.
Bang.